everyone who's joining us today who is unaware. Stepping Up is the show from TAtech where we dig into to technology companies, find out what they do, how they do it, and how they go about setting to make the world a better place. Today we have a bit of a different format in that we have a very special guest that's going to give us a different perspective on things. What we're going to do today is speak with my very good friend Steve Jacobs, and we're going to find out how the world looks from the other side of the table. We're normally talking about technology companies and how we specify and dream up and build products and hope that they gain traction in the world. But on the other side of things, we have organizations who are looking for solutions to their problems, and Steve is very much on the side of things where he can help us with understanding how the thought process goes there. So, Steve, good afternoon. How the devil are you?
I'm good. I'm just raising my eyebrows, thinking, am I going to be able to really help?
Well, in the talking it through, think of it as a therapy session. In the talking it through, we'll arrive at some profound truths. I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
So for people who
a catchphrase, but okay, we can do that.
for people who are unaware, and shame on them if they are, but can you give them a bit of a background on yourself and of course also on the talent community?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Steve, and I'm currently the director of staffing, recruitment, and HR for a company called TAtech International. We are a digital transformation consultancy within the healthcare industry, and we're part of the HCA Healthcare Group, which you probably have heard of.
Yeah.
My recruitment, been in recruitment for like almost 20 years. Mixture of agency and in-house. Worked on some fantastic programs like McDonald's digital transformation program. So if you've been into McDonald's and you've seen like the big kiosks where you order from, so that was my program that I was delivering. I mean, I personally didn't deliver the program, but I hired the people to deliver that. It's 27 countries, and then in a similar capacity with Seracor, we're going through HCA going through a large digital transformation at the moment, where they're upgrading all of their EHR systems, which stands for electronic health records.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Sorry.
No, go on.
I'm just going to say the topic of electronic health records is one that I could dig into for hours, but we'll leave that to one side. The idea of the notion of digital transformation. When you use those words to your average woman or man in the street, they glaze over and they go, oh, "What's a digital transformation?" But of course, these are projects where companies are taking a bigger than usual step to improve what they do and how they do it, and usually that's by using technology. And obviously, for obvious reasons,
it's to make it more people friendly, isn't it? And to kind of shorten time periods and actually help you getting more data and information about yourself as well. So yeah, it's digitizing. It's not Facebook.
So the talent community, can you tell me a wee bit more about that? Because there are any number of communities out there of people in the TA space, and there are lots of events specifically for people in TA. What is if there is a mission behind the talent community?
So the talent community was set up by 4 of us. There's myself, Yasser, Sean, and James. We've been going for just over a year now. And essentially we wanted to set up an inclusive community for everyone in the recruitment industry. There are some fantastic Slack communities out there, but predominantly they're very focused on, whether they're only agency or only in-house or only RPO, or they could just be tech, development communities. But I suppose our community, what we're trying to do is bring everybody from the recruitment industry in one place. And there is a lot of cross knowledge that is going on between, whether your agency and in-house, lots of great sort of learnings, and a lot of, I suppose the biggest thing actually, what we have noticed, by the way, is like those barriers that have been there between agency and in-house, they're coming down. And then there's a lot of support across the industries. And that is really kind of one of our missions, right? Like we want to be able to educate, give a platform for people to learn about what it is like to be an agency or in-house, or educate vice versa. And we work with vendors and partners as well, which is a big part of the community. So the members are learning a lot more about products that they probably never heard of, and how to improve their employer branding, or how to assess candidates. So there's a lot of learnings around that. What else can I tell you?
Is it a typical profile of the people who are members from any particular parts of industry? Public sector, private sector,
it's
vocation?
very diverse. It's very diverse and very mixed. Doesn't matter whether you're from a small 10-person startup, or whether you're working for 100,000 plus employee. It really doesn't matter. What is quite interesting is that from a small business to a large business, there is a lot of similarities around some of the TA challenges that they face.
Yeah. So on that topic specifically, what if your average person in TA, maybe a TA leader for a mid-sized company, was writing down a list of the priorities right now, not especially thinking about technology, what are the challenges that they're going to be having in January 2024?
Yeah. So I came prepared, and I did actually ask this question.
Yeah.
I asked the community and other communities, what are the priorities for 2024, right? Last year was not a great year. We know it wasn't. Things are still kind of slowly creeping back up. I think we're seeing, new budgets are coming out there. Finance teams are starting to become a bit more lean across the business, focusing on, they can't hit the profitability, but focusing on breaking even, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to the TA teams, what I'm seeing a lot of, and I've got my list here, is things like, doing a full TA audit, right? Doing like understanding, what do you have in place? What don't you have in place? Are things, what is working? How is a TA working with HR, for example? So doing a full kind of deep dive in what does your TA organization look like today versus where it should be in the next couple of years.
So before going on to your other items, and I know you've got other items, but when looking at a TA audit of what resources do you have, what do you need to do in a day, what are your goals for the week, month, and year, and who are the people that are going to be banging on your door for results? How do you set about that in the first place when the ground is moving beneath your feet in terms of organizations expanding and contracting and budgets changing?
I think first you've got to hide yourself away from everyone.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Where do you start? I think this is where I think you have to kind of take a real commercial view, commercial hat on, and treat it as if it's your own business.
Yeah.
And look at the previous data, if you've got the data, to be able to see where a lot of the challenges that you might have faced, or a lot of the mistakes that you've made, but also all the good stuff that actually did work as well. Right?
Yeah.
Do more of that. I think, in the most simple language, it comes down to time, and carving out the right time to be able to do that, identifying the right business partners within your organization, whether that's your commercial leaders, your finance leaders, your CEO, and working with them on where is the best place to start, but also what is critical to your business over the next year, 2 years.
Yeah.
The landscape seems to change much more frequently than it used to do.
So given the commercial landscape out there, do TA leaders have do they have space? Do they have a window to do that kind of work just now, or are they still firefighting and trying to bail out their own boat?
I can't speak for all organizations, right? But from what I'm seeing in TTC, I think there is space and capacity now, right? Organizations are not hiring as much as they were 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, because I think people have learned their lesson, quite frankly. But that gives them the space and being able to probably focus on a lot of projects which went into the back burner, right? So there is now a great opportunity to really elevate your TA teams and an organization.
So when conducting an audit of your resources and your team, obviously you're thinking about, do we have all the people that we need? Do we have more people than necessary? Where can we redesign what we do? How much in the mix of that is reassessing the technology you've got at your fingertips, and do we need to keep paying for this product and that product and that product, or should we switch to something else entirely? Is January a good time to get a new ETS, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. Oh gosh, good question. I think January is always a good time because, first of all, you've got budgets. But I would expect most TA leaders or head of HRs would be thinking about this around sort of October, September time. When thinking about when they're thinking about their workforce planning. But also, I suppose it comes down to the financial years of how you run. Yeah, January is obviously a great. And actually, we are hearing. I don't know why I'm doing the action. We do hear that some of our ATS partners they've really picked up on interest and demo requests and leads that are coming in. So clearly there are people that are thinking about upgrading their ATSs, because I think if they haven't done it in 3 years, if you started as a, let's say, I don't know, 100, 200 person organization, 3 years into you're 1,000 person organization, of course you need to look at whether or not that tool that you're using today is going to be scalable. Right? Does it actually match what you need today? So I think you do, and you do have to reassess that.
Yeah, one of the things I'm really keen to find out on behalf of our audience, who are largely going to be people in technology companies, is when you're the buyer, when you're looking at these products and have the authority or the power to decide between this product and that product and how you're going to integrate things with each other, what's the view on the lead time that it takes to make a decision? When a company comes to you with, pitch number one, I've got this great product that's going to revolutionize what you do, and you love the look of it. You've not had a demo yet. You've not had the discovery call. What is the most effective way that people can be interacting with TA to make progress within the optimum amount of time?
You're asking a very human question here, because it comes down to the individual sometimes as well.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it comes down to timing, capturing them on the right day. I'm very open-minded when I talk to people and I talk to technology, but that's because I have a personal interest in HR technology, and TA tools. I always like to know what's out there, what could solve problems, probably what needs, a bit of work sometimes actually, and can I contribute towards that product? So I'm not the one thing which kind of doesn't work. If we go take a step back and say what doesn't work is when you're trying to sell something that you don't know enough about, like not having that knowledge. And I'd rather people come to me and talk to me about a problem which I might have, but don't assume it. Right? It's like when you get, when I get a lot of emails from solution companies that are pitching me a problem which they're assuming I've got. They haven't done their research, and they don't know that that problem or not. So it almost starts from a bad place. And then also when you're kind of name dropping other clients that you're working with, I don't need to see that. And also, especially if they're not in the right relevant industry.
Our other client is Coca-Cola.
Yeah. You see, and so it's never a great place to start from. I think the best place to start from is discovery, and ask the open question. What are your challenges today? I'm just. You could come from an approach of it's just pure research. and I'd be happy to do that. I'd be more than
Yeah.
happy to work with them on that, because it's product market research.
Yeah.
So yeah, does that answer your question?
It kind of does.
Talking about this. Go on.
Oh, yeah, no, it does. And you know, I speak to a lot of people in TA who just wish that, you know, before being sent the cold email or the, you know, the invite to speak on, you know, with a Calendly introduction, that someone's done a bit of homework. They've looked at, well, what are they talking about on LinkedIn and social and so on. What are the company talking about on their website and their blogs? Have they got a new project? Have they made a new acquisition? If the buyer comes informed with information, then they have a more three-dimensional picture of the landscape within that company. And they might still be guessing wrong, but you know, they've made the effort to get an opening, you know, a reason to have the call, and
And also, if they
everyone.
do something,
Mm.
it works. You know, that's the key thing, right? Make sure it works. And you've
Yeah.
got, as I said before, you've got to have the right person on the call to be able to, or in person to be able
Mhm.
to show you how it works.
Yeah. I'm sure most salespeople are much more educational in their approach rather than, you know, arm twisting. They're looking to find out what your pain points are, and then address those. But of course, you still get people who are up against it with targets and so on, and they'll
Yeah,
be
exactly, and I get that. But would
yeah,
you, you know, is it right? Let's be smart here. Is it right to stick someone with 6 months experience as a, I don't know, an SDR or a BDR
yeah.
pitching away, you know, a large enterprise business for £1 million deal? You know, you got to be
Mhm.
smart here.
Yeah, it's easy to look at the salesperson's LinkedIn and think, well, come on, you know, you need to earn your stripes. With all the best respect in the world, I want you to send in your VP of this, that, or the other, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, but I guess it's just how good the organisations are at training up their salespeople as well.
Yeah. So going back to, we were talking about things that are priorities for people in TA
Yes.
this year. You mentioned the TA audit, which is taking stock of where they are and what their needs are.
Mm. The other one is onboarding for success. So that's come up
Yeah.
quite a bit. What does seem to be coming more this year, and actually it doesn't seem to have changed previous years, is interviewer and interviewing development. And there's been a lot of that.
Mm.
Which doesn't kind of surprise me when I think about the generations changing every year, because
Yeah.
techniques change and everything. And I think there are probably a handful of companies out there who do get it right,
Mhm.
but then teams change, managers change, hiring managers change all the time.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that consistency of when you're onboarding these people, that you're giving them that training straight away.
Yeah.
To set them up for success. But yeah, so that's something that a lot of people talk about. We talked about ATS implementation rollouts.
Mhm.
There's a lot of noise around that at the moment. EDI training is another one.
Yeah.
EVP. Yeah.
I get the impression that ADI or DEI, or you know, whichever acronym is correct, that from last year, and given the current commercial realities right now in the UK, certainly UK and Europe seems to be more cautious right now than the US. The US, the market seems to be more buoyant there, but in the UK, with things being more cautious, I've seen budgets being cut for ADI, or things being put on hold. We'll get back to that later on, but with other priorities right now.
Yeah, well, I can't remember now the name of the big consultancy. It was one of the top 4, wasn't it? Which basically canned their diversity program.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was now. Was it PwC? I don't want to name names because I might be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I did read very recently that they canned one of their diversity big programs. Actually, I don't know why. Maybe they need to refocus their efforts. But I think a lot of people did. There were a lot of organisations that focused quite heavily on DNI, and then maybe it works, maybe it didn't work for them, and then they kind of felt, you know, that time and money and investment they didn't get the output that they wanted from it. and
Yeah.
so they put these things on the back burner. They've got to focus on what's right for their business.
A lot of companies, a bit like looking at training, they say, well, the return on investment is not fast enough, so we're going to cut back on that. We need something to pay off for us quickly.
Yeah.
And in the past, it used to be, training programs or apprenticeships would be cut because you don't see that money back for years to come. And in EDI, they could see money going out and not much coming back in the short term by way of benefits. And it might well mean that the company is a better place to work in all manner of regards, but it's not necessarily immediately adding to the bottom line. It does make good business sense, of course.
Word benefit, and I think that's the problem. I think a lot of companies looked at it more as a benefit rather than an essential part of their business.
Yeah, it's an intangible.
That attitude, then you're never going to really be wholly invested into it.
Yeah. It kind of reveals the companies who were doing it for show rather than for for serious reasons. But yeah, you mentioned before they're onboarding for success, and of course, onboarding starts at the point at which you're interviewing, or frankly at the point at which you advertise a vacancy, and that's the impression that the candidate has of your company. And technology, you would say it was very difficult to have technology help hiring managers to interview better, but it can certainly help with the donkey work and the prep to make sure that when you get to that point of interview, whether it's on Zoom or face to face, that you're much better informed, that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're looking for, and you know the points to be ticking off when speaking to a candidate that you need to do this job.
There are plenty of tools, platforms out there today which are able to provide you data in real time.
Yeah.
Before you're about to have that interview, so you're actually really, really prepared for that. I think they're 100% needed.
Yeah. You mentioned yesterday psychometrics.
That people are looking for reducing time to efficiency. I keep looking here because I'm looking at my list. Reducing time to efficiency using psychometric testing. That's an interesting one because, well, you've got a good example actually from the war, for the armies around using psychometric testing.
Did I mention this yesterday? I think I might have forgotten what I said. I'm terrible at remembering what I said, but I'm always really interested in. I used to have a company where we sold psychometric assessments, and I dug into it quite seriously at that time. But I'm always much more interested in companies using psychometrics for internal mobility and development of staff than just the hiring side of things, because you can see someone's potential, and that in tandem with what you see them doing in their job makes for a better informed HR department, and I think that retention should absolutely be part of TA, because there's no point scoring 10 goals if you're losing 12 at the back, and retention is vital. And I see that psychometric, when it's used well, and frankly, I think that psychometrics can be coming around much more so now because of the implementation of AI to make crunching that data much more effective than ever before.
I'm going to say a controversial question here because I know that obviously you represent different platforms, but
yeah,
do you think that, I'm trying to think how to word this without upsetting people.
No one's listening. It's absolutely fine.
That's fine. Okay, so there are platforms out there which do the psychometric testing, and we know some of them, and they're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
But they also can be quite costly, right? Especially depending on the size of the organisations that you are.
Yeah.
Why aren't we seeing more companies actually hiring psychologists from the top universities to build these types of tools out for them?
I'm not
seen examples of that.
I'm not so sure about that, but psychologists who are skilled and knowledgeable in the implementation of this has always well, it's often been seen as a bit of a dark art, but there are amazing platforms out there. You mentioned that, the big names, the likes of Savills, and there's a variety of others. They have products that can be very expensive, and that's a legacy thing where you would have someone come along and interpret reports for you. But there are products out now which produce reports in easy to understand English that are very usable and can be integrated with your technologies, with your ATS and so on, and also can be integrated into your hiring process, so that you're asking everyone who applies to take an assessment, so you have a bigger pool of people taking assessments, rather than leaving it to the second interview stage where you right, well, these 5 people, would like them to take an assessment because we're holding off because it's expensive. It's not nearly as expensive as it used to be, and it's much more effective when you use it earlier in the process.
Yeah, but that would be so good if you could actually use that as a case study and to say,
Yeah.
like, again, I'm just thinking from a vendor's perspective, be able to say we're more cost effective than you actually hiring an internal psychologist to build out an assessment tool, because it will take them X amount of time. This is where, well, if they've actually done it, they've had to work with so and so from different departments. You probably had to hire product managers to build it out. And the length of time that it actually takes might take a year, where you've already got the solution to plug and play.
So with the pooled knowledge that you have within the talent community, and all the members there, obviously people all have their own priorities and so on. What's the feeling or the experience of using AI within products in practice? And are they talking about the success stories that they've had, where they've implemented a technology platform that is turbocharged with the AI element of what it does, and whether it be an ATS or a search and matching tools, and so on? What's the feeling coming back from that in terms of successes? Are people talking about their successes?
Yeah, they are. People. I mean, I knew you were going to bring up a question around AI, but yeah, I think it's obviously going to be talked about a lot. I think people are still in testing mode, trialing it. We partner with TTC partners with a number of AI assisted tools. And our members use those tools. That you've got the interviewing ones, and they're actually really good. We've used it. I trialed it for 3 months at Seracor, and actually it showed us how much time and admin we've saved, hugely. But it also helped our communication with the hiring managers, and it was a lot. And you were able to there's a lot of cross collaboration. So actually, the community that do use these tools, the members of the communities that use, they love them. They really do, and they speak very highly of them, and it saves them, as I said, a lot of time, a lot of effort. They're not crazily expensive either, which is good. I think they could probably charge more. Shouldn't say that. But it's true, and it's more assisted, right? It's not going to replace them, so they feel comfortable with that. But people are still trialing, ChatGPT to write job descriptions and create presentations and things like that, which is good. But a lot of it will be trial and error. It's still very much an experimental and education mode, right?
Yeah.
But I'm seeing quite some good ones out there.
So when being in a position of running a TA department in a mid to large organization, you will have, as we all call it, a tech stack. You'll have a collection of tools and platforms, some that you're using all day, every day, your ATS, for example, and others more or less frequently for the variety of, posting adverts, recruitment, marketing, employer branding, and so on. Fitting those tools together when you're considering sorry?
I like to think of it as the full candidate journey from pre to post.
Yes, absolutely. So the integration of one with another, when you're thinking about, when you're being persuaded that a new technology is has all the bells and whistles that you're looking for. How much of a priority is it that that integrates seamlessly with the rest of your tech stack?
It's massively important. I worked at one organization as an example where we had, you know, an ATS, specific ATS, and a different HRIS. They
Yeah.
were not talking to each other, which meant that the data was incorrect most of the time when we were putting reports.
Yeah.
The systems weren't updating at the same times either.
Mhm.
We had to spend money on an additional tool to be able to connect them,
Yeah.
which we did in the end because we had no choice. It was all I didn't like it as much because I felt like I was being forced, but you know, handcuffed almost, but we had no
Yeah.
choice and we had to do that. And once that tool was in place and we figured it out, you know, we actually had a TA operations enablement team to be
Mm.
able to work with us on that. It's so important because
Yeah.
you know it's helping you pull out your data.
Yeah.
And what I do get nervous about are, and again, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
When one system is trying to do everything all in one,
Mm.
there's a lot of these. Well, not a lot, but there's more and more of these all-in-one
Yeah.
solutions that are coming out,
Yeah.
and they weren't born that way. So if
Mhm.
you're an HRIS, and then you start offering ATS solutions, is it really going to be credible? Is it going to work? Right?
Mhm.
Because I've seen it fail a lot actually with a couple. I've used them, and then vice versa as well. I think it's best to stick at what you're best at, right?
Yeah.
And people do ask for these all-in-ones,
Mhm.
but I've never seen a very strong case, and maybe someone who's listening can actually show me a
Yeah.
very strong example of where it's worked really, really well. So on that basis, like I think the integration is absolutely critical
Yeah.
um, to making sure that you are getting the right, you know,
Yeah.
from post.
One of the one of the problems with all-in-ones, don't take this the wrong way, but TA people in certain circumstances can be the most paranoid and neurotic because uh,
Probably.
well, there's not is when you acquire an all-in-one platform and it has 12 modules that do
Yeah.
this, that, and the other and makes the coffee. Uh, Someone at the organization who's usually the person who's paying for it is saying, "Hold on, we're only using half of this, so that means we're getting screwed over for the other half, or
Yeah.
half of our money is wasted." It's a bit like Henry Ford saying, half of his money spent on advertising is wasted. He just doesn't know which half. Uh, but when it comes to buying a product and not using all of the features, people have an idea that they're paying £100 for £50 worth of kit. And
You need to care. That's why, as a TA leader, you need to really care about what you're buying
yeah,
and what you're spending your money on. You've got to treat it as if it's your own money. Sorry to
mhm,
say, it's fact.
yeah, yeah, and it's as everyone knows in their personal life, it's really easy to sign up to something, like a gym in January, and then forget about it, and you've got the recurring billing coming off, but you're not getting your money's worth.
Mm,
And it can be very much the same on technology products.
yeah,
The tech companies, they want you to use the product, but technology companies need to be in partnership, and the buying companies need to be in partnership to keep the use up.
oh yeah. I was going to say, like, this is where you have the opportunity to work with that company much closer to really kind of give that feedback,
Mm,
advice on and helping them build the right solution for your business as well. So
yeah,
if you're a platform where you are customizable to an extent,
yeah,
work with the product teams. It's literally what I did at this company. I worked with the product teams of this other company, of this ATS.
yeah.
We helped build this. It was a BI tool. We
Mhm.
helped develop the BI tool.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned implementation and adoption earlier, and I absolutely agree that is vital. But readoption is really important because
Mm.
people in TA do move. Often, the person who specified and bought the product leaves. The new people are not trained in the new product and maybe prefer something else. So the
There's a lot
usage,
of bias around that. A lot of companies, yeah, a lot of TA leaders will always have their favorites that they like to work with.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just times that those favorites may not necessarily be right actually for the company.
Yeah, and recruiters get tech fatigue. The boss brings in some new bit of kit. Right, we're going to do this for assessments from Monday, and they go, oh, another one, so the level of adoption drops with each new product that's trialed, and on top of that, when people move from one company to another, then products that are bought and paid for are not used to the full extent, and the tech companies
Still
would
happens.
love to then bring in have a re-adoption of the product.
Mm. It happens a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
the number of times you bought, you know, LinkedIn tools, right?
yeah,
And you buy a whole kind of enterprise package. How many people actually use all of um, the solutions or the products that they've just basically paid for?
yeah, yeah,
About
yeah.
50% of them.
So in the coming year, I've just noticed the time, we've gone a bit over time. In the coming year, with your Mystic Meg crystal ball, for the for the world of TA, well, first of all, is it possible to speculate more than 3 months ahead these days?
Yes,
But
yes.
can you give us a pointer as to what you expect on the technology side of things for TA in the coming months, priorities wise?
Priorities wise, I do. Okay, I think so. I think we'll see some M&A this year.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some M&A this year because actually I think there are some really good platforms out there that would probably work really well together,
Mhm.
integrated. Um, I think priority wise though, yeah, once the audit's been done, I think workforce planning is one that I think
Yeah.
people will start to look at to improve their workforce planning because I don't think enough people did it over the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and made a lot of mistakes. Um, I think that we will see more evaluations on how we're doing assessments of candidates,
Mhm.
bringing them into the organisation through to
Yeah.
onboarding. Um, I think there'll be more learning and development because there'll be in time to be able to invest in learning and development tools,
Yeah.
or learning development tools. And the other thing is, I think we'll see more because there's a lot more questions around salary data.
Yeah.
Things have changed so much over the last 3 years. Um, to the extent where people are saying, there are companies that are saying we should be transparent with our salaries. And we're not getting into that
Mhm.
area, but I think that people will be looking at how the data has changed a lot. Um, Salaries 3 years ago are very different to they are now. I don't think
Yeah.
people probably got as many pay rises as they probably should have got. And especially TA salaries, they've fluctuated up and down. I think they're quite down at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're listening, stop taking advantage of that, especially if you're hiring a TA person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think there'll be a lot of questions and a lot of investment around getting salary data right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think in general, look, the industry is, it was on its knees last year, right? Let's be honest. For in-house and for recruitment agencies,
Yeah.
there was a lot of suffering.
Mhm.
Hopefully, there's been a lot of learning because I think it's very important to look at the history and to learn from that history, so you're not
Mhm.
making the same mistakes again.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there'll be a lot more investment in understanding the business better, that they're working in, but also it will get better. I do
Mhm.
think it will get better. I mean, it's a 10-year cycle, right? We started
Yeah.
this 10-year cycle 2 years ago, so it will eventually get better.
Yeah. What I'm getting a sense of in the UK is that people have been very cautious, but the market is, the landscape out there is relatively steady, and quite a lot of companies are holding their breath and doing the
Yeah,
doing the hard yards right now, and they're not expecting big movements, but maybe steady growth towards the end of the year.
yeah. And look, I said this to you last week. There are three major things that are happening right now in the world, right?
Mhm.
Which unfortunately we're living in an inflation situation with
Yep.
very high money is very expensive right now. We're living in a war recession.
Yeah.
There's got massive global supply chain issues, and all of these have a downward effect.
Hmm.
And they, so it's not going to last forever. We know it won't last forever because people will not allow it.
Yeah.
But it will just take time, which is why I think again finance teams will start to become much more stronger and stringent around where spend goes, and it becomes more of a priority. People have probably left now by now. They probably haven't heard any of that, but that's okay.
But I reckon that times like this is where really good TA people, creative TA people, are able to earn their corn and do really well. You know, when budgets are tight, when you can't throw caution to the wind and buying every product out there, then you get to be inventive, you get to be creative.
Exactly, which is our best skill set. You know, the best thing about being a recruiter is you can be as creative as you like.
Yeah, think on your feet. Well, thank you very much again for coming along as a guest today. I always learn something when we have a chat, and I've learned plenty today. And
I always love talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone who's been watching, either watching live or watching us on replay or watching us on any of the social channels. There will be more shows coming up. My erstwhile colleague Peter Weddle has a roundtable on February the 8th. I think Bill Fanning has a show next week as well, and I'll be back with Stepping Up in a couple of weeks' time. So in the meantime, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll say goodbye.
Take
Good
care.
to see you. Thanks then. Bye.